Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. And I've been talking off air with Holly Hester, who is the three A's, I call it, actress, artist, and author. And Holly's out in California, but actually she's coming to New Jersey, which is pretty cool. That's in real time. That'll be tomorrow, September 22nd. This will be on next week. We met online, which is a wonderful thing, and it was instant because I'm such a fan of the acting profession and her background and her work and the writing and her book, which she's coming here to do a book signing, Higher Living, which is we're going to talk all about that, an insightful living to higher life. So there's so much to unwrap and talk to Holly about. So I'm going to cut short my Johnny Carson monologue, which I always like to do, but there's no jokes, no humor in this. You know, this is kind of serious stuff. She has such an interesting life. So without further ado, I'm so pleased and I'm really grateful. You know, you got a busy schedule. That you made some time to do this. And here we go. Holly, talk about a little bit. Let's start a little bio. I know you had this great journey from Texas to California. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Calvin. It's nice to be on this show. It's an honor. It's a complete honor. Thank you so much. I basically had the dream. I have a dream, Martin Luther King's quote. I had a dream to be an actor. My siblings started that. Of course, cliche, right? So I transitioned, moved to LA many years ago. Went to high school there, and I had the dream. I took acting classes. I was very naive. I thought Hollywood was one way, from the movies, from the old school movies, from all the from when the Hollywood was golden, the golden years, as you call it, as we all call it. I transitioned there, said bye-bye to Texas, and came to California and developed a life there, took as many acting classes, realized it was harder than I thought. So it's kind of a weird, it's a weird sort of war area. Like it's an area of pettiness and all these things that I had no idea. I was a sheltered little neighborhood girl, So it's a different life. It really is very competitive, very petty. Everyone there, it's just run completely business and not so much entertainment. So this was from a naive girl's perspective. So I transitioned from there, wrote some scripts with my family members and some friends, and stood on those scripts. And then you realize you need sponsors, and kind of studied up on that. It took more acting classes. I was in LA the whole time, loved every second of it, loved the weather, loved the way of life. It's a different life in itself. It's a so small world, very small world. Everyone knows everyone's publicist, everyone knows everyone's agent and things like that. And then come to find out there are, we do all the work ourselves. Your agents really are doing little for you now than they were years ago, which is a whole nother subject. It was great. Wrote some scripts, realized the process in that. Then did a TV show, filmed Higher Living with Holly, going from state to state. I developed in speaking when I was a young teenager, so that really took a toll on traveling. So I ended up going from LA back to Texas, then back to LA, then to other cities, because I realized there was such a market for this, and traveling, and then speaking, and then, other things, and then writing, and those things that just kind of, I didn't know that there were compartments and areas for that. So acting the whole time, did some things, was on the Disney Channel. I loved that set, was on Nickelodeon, was on HBO, completely different universe than back home for me. And I loved it. I loved the energy. Complete, like I said, not every actor, it's a common misconception that every actor is a nice person. I'm just going to say that and be that blunt, if I can. I
Sure.
loved meeting other actors. I loved meeting the cast and the crew, and how they all operate. The makeup artist that's just constantly in your face, and just, operates on you and applies 50 different makeups and lip glosses, and you literally can't go a take where you don't have lip gloss on, or some type of, from the lighting. I loved studying all that, because I was a theater major in high school and in college. Loved it. And theater in LA is very different from theater anywhere else, and especially in college. So yeah, I loved set life. I loved HBO and Disney, and just grew up in that. And there's such a tiny circuit. I realized that most relationships, especially in the entertainment industry, they're so there's thing longevity in relationships in Hollywood mean everything. They mean everything. You have to trust. So I'm sort of made that transition from a kid to an adult, so to speak. And I've been loving it every step of the way. I cut my teeth in the acting world from that, and just kind of developed on-set experience and acting classes deeper into that, and just started auditioning ever since. And right now, I'm actually looking into and studying really hardly a supporting role. So I hope to just keep my resume going.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. I have to tell the audience here that when we first met a week or two ago, we talked for an hour. Just I brought up my favorite movie, Casablanca, and you know all about it. And so many people I talk to, younger people, don't know what I'm talking about. And as I told you then, Casablanca changed my life. Because of that movie, I wouldn't be here now doing what I'm doing. Changed the whole course of my life. Long story, not important. So I think the first bit of my concentration of this interview is to talk about the book you wrote and why you're coming to New Jersey tomorrow. An insightful look to living your higher life, higher living, by Holly Hester, which is on Amazon, and people will be able to see. Talk about what is higher living, and we'll kind of dissect piece by piece. But talk a little bit, what compelled you, what moved you to write higher living?
Right. That's such an interesting question, Calvin. So I was in a recent book signing. I think it was San Antonio somewhere. Whatever the town is. Someone walked up to me, whose family was buying my book. They were all just a big family buying my book, and they said, I have a dream. I've always wanted to kind of do this. I've always wanted to do that. Do you know how I would do that? And I thought to myself, first of all, my reaction was, this is so bold. No, I really, I, you know, this is so bold for him to ask. And then I thought, you know what? That's so humbling that he would ask me. I mean, like, why would he ask me? That touched me so much. I mean, I just formed that kind of connection, and, in my soul, as someone like me, from my ears to my heart, it just kind of, my heart beat a little bit, because I thought, how kind of them to even ask. And they think I would have the answer. Higher living is about, first of all, it's a series. It's a book series that I've developed. So many people don't know how to begin. They don't know how to begin in their dream. They don't know how to begin to be a mom. They don't know how to begin in their career. They don't know how to begin in general. They don't even know how to begin in health. You know, it doesn't even matter. There doesn't even have to be a health crisis. You know, when we're unaware of things, we don't know how to start. This happened to me so many times in life. I would not know how to start things. I wouldn't know how to start in writing. I wouldn't know how to start informing my show, my television show, where I travel everywhere. And it's very hard to do. And of course, many things have, it was, right before when the pandemic hit. So people were really asking me, well, how are you going to continue this? Higher living is about beginning. It's about starting somewhere. And it doesn't have to be a perfect place. You just have to start. I'm related to somebody who used to deal with depression. And this relates to what we're talking about, because a lot of people think, well, starting is so easy. No, it's not. Not necessarily. I'm going to disagree with you on there up to a point. Now, I completely appreciate where they're coming from, but no, it's very hard to start for the average person. And with mental health awareness and self-awareness and self-health awareness that's coming up in headlines everywhere today, and it's growing more and more popular. It's one of those things where it's so hard to start whenever everything is telling you not to. When I grew up, this relative of mine that deals with depression, it was so hard. Starting everything seemed like the Grand Canyon. It's not just that. People with bipolar, a personality disorder, or this or that. And it's not, what I'm saying? These mental illnesses and these things and these defeats and everything that come up. And maybe you feel like you're a winner. Maybe it's not even a defeat mindset, but it's still hard to start for the average person to start somewhere. My book is about starting somewhere. One chapter of mine says about eagles. It's my favorite chapter. I go in to a bit about it with eagle activity. A lot of people don't know this, but eagles mate for life. They don't go to another eagle.
Wow.
When they're in the air, they stick to their mate. And it's so hard for the female to pick the male mate. You just don't even know. They put them through a sequence of testing to make sure they're even a suitable male species.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. So there's so many fascinating facts about the eagle. And that's just one. And what the eagles do, they begin to search for their mate, and they begin to do these things. They begin, you can begin on motherhood by just starting to try to have a baby. You can begin with a career with just starting to apply with your resume, just certain things like that. It's not necessarily about reaching for the top. It's not so much an ambitious book. It's about beginning somewhere, and a very persuasive book to begin somewhere. So
I have to, it's interesting you said that, because in my adult life, I've often thought about beginning, just what you said, and I have my metaphor that when a rocket, you can use this if you want, when a rocket takes off at the beginning of its journey, it requires more energy just to lift itself up 1 foot. Just to rev those engines, the rocket lifts up a foot, it uses more energy. And then as it goes faster and faster, it actually uses less energy. So that beginning journey of a rocket ship, that first few feet, is the hardest. And that's just what you said. It's just what you said about beginning and how hard it is. By the way, that's fascinating. While you're writing this, higher living, what was one of the most, what was one of the most challenging aspects and parts of writing this, and probably interviewing and working with other people? What was the challenge in doing that?
sure, it was writing it.
How
No,
long did
yeah.
how long did it take to do that?
How long did it take? It took a little bit. It probably took in a process 10 months or longer. It's a process. Now, this is kind of a record setter because for many, I've researched this, it takes years for some authors. So I'm very pleased with that. For me, it could have been faster because I'm just that sort of person. I like fast pace. But yeah, it's a process. And the hardest part about it, Calvin, was writing and putting it all together as it I don't care how your personality has, how your temperaments are, how your ability to learn. It's going to be hard for any person to concentrate and to put it all in sequences. So that was the hardest for me.
Okay, I just finished my second novel, and so I know all about. My first novel was 5 years. The second novel was 3.5, so I'm getting better. But it's by the way, it's a hard because you're alone. It's a hard for people to do that. So I can relate and I can feel and understand. It's one of the hardest endeavors because you're kind of alone on a little island there, and it's and to have to motivate yourself. Anyway, higher living is kind of like a mindset. Describe that.
It's definitely a mindset. Okay, so I was fortunate enough to in my upbringing to be raised around positive mindsets. Um, I don't know what the statistic for an average person with a mindset. I've heard many motivational speakers. I've had mentors talk about mindsets. It's a whole teaching, but basically, at the end of the day, you want positive results. You want results of any type. My book is to help your mindset. It's not about material things. If you want to read my book and get inspired to go and buy a private jet or to go and buy a mansion, by all means, let's all go and do it, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, our souls have to enjoy that. And our souls can't be heavy with things. We got to smile and we got to enjoy things and we got to kind of be there, and we have to love and be loved. We have to just enjoy more, because otherwise you don't want bad health, you don't want anything, you want to get results. So at the end of the day, you want your mindset to conceive things, you want to enjoy things, you want to live a long life. Everyone wants that kind of thing. At the end of the day, you want a fulfillment, you want a fulfilled life. you know um so my book is not necessarily about going to a higher level and just, private jets and all, and just, bragging a sweet victory, whatever, with a salary. It's not about that. It's about achieving a positive mindset. And it's also about celebrating yourself, but it's also about celebrating others. And it's about achieving when you begin to continue with that. But it's the majority of it is about beginning. Are you gonna enjoy what you've begun to do? Yes. And I walk you through that in the book.
That's great. Um, Target audience for higher living. Who are you shooting for?
All ages.
Okay.
All ages.
Okay.
Yes. And whoever wants to read it, whoever wants to be encouraged, and whoever just wants to be better and better themselves.
Okay. Now we're going to move from 1A, the author, to the artist. So let's talk about your art. You do abstract, unconventional portraits. Talk about your art, and when did your art begin? I guess a long time ago.
My art began with I have a very artistic family. My family member is very artistic, but this goes way back. My great grandmother was an artist, a portrait painter. She would paint little figurines on eggs and little
Wow.
thingies.
Wow.
She would Yes, she would. She was very intense. She could paint things that no one else saw. She could paint them on eggs, and she had just portraits. You know, my paintings, I think, are a thrill for me when I paint them. Nothing compared to how she could do. And she was in Broadway. She was a Broadway queen and
Wow.
had Lassie's puppy, one of Lassie's puppies, and nobody got that. So she was an
Wow.
actress. She was a painter. She was a portrait painter. She was a very classy woman, always went everywhere with extravagant, expensive clothes and expensive jewelry and all that. I mean, you know, she was just very British and just very blunt and very theatrical, you know, always used her hands. She was artistic, and she developed and she painted, and I respect that. And yeah, I've always been drawn to it. It's in my DNA. And so I also have a lot of, you know, artistic portrait painting expertise friends that are way more advanced than I am, and I love them and I learn from them, and they are definite mentors for me. And so I just started painting. I can paint everything. Next year it will be in galleries. Next year my painting, so I will definitely be posting about that. I can paint all types of things, but what I love is people. I can paint people in cities. That's my favorite thing to do. But I would love to attempt way more things, unconventional and abstract, but I love art.
Perfect. And you said you are having a big showing in January in Southern California?
Yes, yes, yes. That it will be posted very soon, but yeah, it's going to be very exciting, and I'll give more details on that. But that's going to be the first of the year, and everyone's welcome, and it's a great team. It's a great team there.
Okay. On your Instagram account, is any of your art posted up there? Just out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
is also posted on a website. I believe it's like Sayatmo, and then Artivo. These are two different websites.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll share that on social media. I'll be sharing that on my website.
perfect, perfect. Okay, because I have your Facebook, which is going to be up there.
Okay.
So moving back to one of my favorite things in the world, acting. So you're an actress. Do you have particular type of roles that you like to go for?
I'd like to go. What directors probably see is they see intense, and they probably see very intense. And what they want to see is your work ethic. And this is what I've learned in the entertainment industry. They don't want to pick a person that's just hard on set. They're hard to deal with on set. They want a person who shows up on time, if not early, who studied, who's been in acting class, who marks up a script, marks up a strip. You can find notes galore on it, and they want the connection. They want the experience. They want the energy. They want everything to gel. Is what I've learned in as being in entertainment all this time. They want easy to work with, and they also want to work with somebody they've also worked with before. They do take chances. Directors do often take chances, but it also depends on things. It's very conditional, a very situational thing. So the parts that I feel like I would go for are more or intense roles. One of my friends who's a director, actually, it's so funny. They were going to cast me as a religious, it's like a music video or thing. They were going to cast me as like a religious like a religious like murderer or something like that, if I can say that. I don't really want to be a bad friend and expose that, but they were going to cast me as some, like, they wanted to dress me up as like a priest with like a knife or something, and I'm like, okay, what are you trying to cast me as, like horror now? Like, you know, so hopefully I don't have a part. Hopefully I can play comedy. Hopefully I can play a lot of genres, and definitely have a lot of dimensions. So we'll see.
Um, Off topic, Holly, and you don't have to answer this,
Okay.
but it's a one-word answer. And you can answer a couple different, but I always like asking this. It's kind of like my pet question. So here goes. Um, Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend the day day with?
Oh man.
You can come up with a couple, whatever. It's, just, it's an,
Yeah.
it's an interesting question. Um,
Yeah. Who I'd like to spend a day with. Um, you know what? I would have liked to have spent a day with, well, of course there's many people. Um, and this is a tough question too, because if I choose a woman, it's going to look like I'm a female rights activist, and I believe in the equality of that. I respect women's empowerment, but I believe that both sexes deserve equal respect and that sort of thing. So I don't get into politics. I don't like to make people mad. Um, what I would love to, I love the movie Titanic. I would have loved to have spent a day with that captain to think about his ship. But I'm going to transition from that captain because even though I love the dynamics around the real Titanic story, let's just face it, Hollywood, blew that up with a love story. So it's not going to be the same thing. Who I would love to spend a day with is probably maybe Amelia Earhart.
wow.
That is so random, but
Wow.
I love and respect
Wow.
what she did as a person. This has nothing to do with her as a female and crossing those lines. As the first female pilot, I care nothing about that, even though I appreciate what she did. Um, I love the fact that she was a bold person in aviation. She was very bold. None of us heard from her again. Yeah, or we didn't hear anything about her on the news. And I wasn't even around, so we is nothing. A certain generation didn't hear anymore. I mean, she disappeared. So I would have loved to have spent a day with somebody who was present before they were absentee from the world. That would have been amazing.
Great,
She's incredible.
great answer. It is a great answer. And I've asked this question, hundreds of times, and that's a first. It's interesting. My first journalism story as a broadcaster, I randomly walked into this place in Asbury Park, New Jersey, big music place, and
Mhm.
it was an antique store, and there was a woman there, and I said, I just want to interview you. And as it turned out, she was one of the first female pilots in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was real unusual for a woman back in those days, late 50s, 60s, to be a pilot, just like Amelia Earhart.
Yes.
And she used to actually fly Barry Goldwater around,
Oh,
who was running for president. And so that was my first interview as a journalist, just random. It was kind of funny. And you said Amelia Earhart. Um, Back to the book. Is there a particular really interesting chapter in this book? Uh, you did say something earlier. Um,
sure. There are many great things in that book. In fact, I think I have a copy with me right now. I just can't reach for it. It's like
okay.
sitting next to me. So I love the chapter about eagles because eagles are able to do the impossible. They
That's
store food. They store food for days in a compartment in them. They literally do not have to stop until they get to their next destination, which I think is fascinating. But there is another chapter in there about business and developing in our business in our goals. There's a girl there, a 13-year-old girl, in the beginning of the chapter in my book. I believe it's not the sweethearts chapter. I think it's the skyscrapers chapter. I believe is what it is. I'm not too
okay.
sure because because of it's just not on my brain right now, but I can double check. Um, there's a chapter in there about a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl. I think she's Israeli. She developed an app that I mean a young teenager who first developed an app, and how you can do that too. We all have that goal. Is Do we have a lack of motivation or motivation? That can be an idea behind why we don't begin. So just an idea, and before you all start reading, maybe something to think about. is it a lack of motivation for creating an app? Do we have, app ideas that we've always wanted to do? And I think it's interesting because Uber app just got hacked. And so this app
Wow.
discussion is coming up. And for a young girl to already have that ironed out as the CEO of her company, I believe it's either in my skyscrapers chapter or my blueprints. It's in a blueprint section of my chapter in my book. Yeah, she was so young, yet the security risk of creating an app is very, very tough. It's a very tedious process because with apps, there's always a potential hacking issue with that. Yes. And so this young teenage girl, without the help of a CEO team, and she had to develop that, was in school and she still did it. And she
No.
still batted, and no one hacked her idea and her follow through and her begin, and she got results that she wanted. So she's just one of many examples I have in my book.
Great. That really is, that's, I love the eagle thing, and this young girl, these are really role models. Kind of winding down, I'm looking at your bio, and I get a kick out of the last thing, just to touch base you, because I'm such a fan of Hollywood, but you listed your favorite directors, Clint Eastwood, Franco Zeffirelli. I know he did Romeo and Juliet, which I saw. That was actually my first wedding song from Romeo and Juliet. Didn't work, obviously. First wedding. Anyway, Alfred Hitchcock and Nora Efron. Comments about any of those directors?
Sure. Nora Ephron revolutionized the romanticism in all of her movies. As a woman, she romanticized. I'll never forget the first time I watched a film of hers, Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah, she revolutionized romanticism because there's so much romanticism in that movie, and there's so much of the correlation of old Hollywood and things that she uses. She is the very one who put old Hollywood and restored that name a little bit from the golden ages back into films, and that's bold. That's very, very bold, and she did it with a big budget. She was able to get the cast members. She was able to form really close relationships with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, some of Hollywood's most incredible actors. Frank Zeffirelli, Franco Zeffirelli, he is nitty gritty, and I love it. He is so nitty gritty and has a special touch. I hope he lives for longer as a director. I really hope that he comes out with something else, with something new. And the other directors, they're completely phenomenal. Not a film that I do not feel relatability to. It's touched my life tremendously. So.
Perfect. That's a perfect way to conclude our little interview. I want to thank you for your time and making the time to do this. Again, it's so interesting. Your 3 A's, the author, acting, an artist. It's fascinating, and you are herewith welcome to come back in any shape, way, form. We can reconvene. When you have your art show, we can talk. Anyway, please do come back, because this was great, Holly, and I thank you very much.